from perfectpresshTV.com, your vinyl superstore. So we're gonna be starting on tumblers, the epoxy tumblers that you see pretty much everywhere. I'll be showing you today how to make them. I'll be showing you what we use for you guys to make this at home. So let's start here. Need gloves for the epoxy because you don't want that on your skin. We'll need 2 little cups for the epoxy. To put the A part and the B part, you will be needing a stick to mix the epoxy, a sanding block for you to sand off your tumbler, because once you sand it down, it creates more texture for the epoxy to hold. Obviously the tumbler. Tape to tape in the inside of the cup. The epoxy itself, which we sell this. We just started selling it here at perfectpresshTV.com. The bundle itself, altogether, it's $39.99, so that's a steal. Also, the glitter we'll be using, we're making a cupcake inspired tumbler, so we'll be using the Snow White from Perfect Press HTV glitter and Sugar Mama, and all the glitters are $4.95 for the Perfect Press HTV glitter brand. And for sprinkles, we'll be using the glitter chip Hocus Pocus, and this is for you guys, so for us to show you that you can mix and match glitters from different brands. And of course we'll need a tumbler to be spinning the tumbler, and a heat gun to avoid all bubbles of the epoxy. So that's pretty much it that we need to start off with, and I'll be showing you how to prep the cup. First we're going to be sanding it down so it can, how I mentioned before, so it can create the texture you want so the epoxy can actually stay and grab onto something. And I'll be showing you how to tape it also. So let's start with sanding it down. And you don't have to sand it for that long either, just as long as you see a little texture, that's fine. And smoothness. And for the tape, it's just the top ring that you'll be taping down. It doesn't have to be pretty at all. It really doesn't. Mine never looks pretty because it's a circle, so I'll be showing y'all how to do that. And this just helps to avoid if epoxy falls in there when you are epoxying the top of the cup, and it doesn't affect it, because once you remove the tape it'll come off, or if it does touch the actual cup you can just grab a little X-Acto knife and pluck it right out. And this is how the cup will end up looking. Not pretty at all, how I mentioned. So we're going to be inserting the cups into the turner so we can start prepping the epoxy and pour it on the cups. We're going to start putting the gloves on so we can start preparing the epoxy. And again, you want to have gloves just because epoxy can be very chemically reacting to your skin, and you don't want that, of course. The epoxy we are using is FDA approved, so it won't be toxic for you. And we are using part A and part B, but we're going to start with B. We're going to go backwards. And the reason why we do that is just because part B is a little bit more thinner and liquidy than part A, and it's easier to pour. So we'll be pouring to, I just use the guidelines on my cup, the 4th line, or actually the bottom line. And that was part B. And we will be pouring part A to the other one. And I would recommend doing all the epoxy things in an open area like a garage or just a big place, because it can get very smelly. We will now be mixing both of them together. And you can use your wooden stick to take some out first. And once you have them all in one cup, you want to put your timer for 3 minutes and mix it in every direction, going this way, switch it around, but you do not want to mix it fast. If you mix it fast, you'll create way too many bubbles that you don't want. So, hey Siri, set a timer for 3 minutes.
Okay, 3 minutes and counting.
So while you're mixing, you will be getting a milky substance look. You want it to look clear, obviously. So you'll just keep mixing. Mix, mix, mix. How exciting! Alright, hey.
Brother.
So now that we're done mixing it all, we're gonna pour it onto the cup and just do an even layer. And you want to do up and down motions. Just make sure you have it all covered up. All the way to the top. And you'll have a lot of dry area, so you want to cover that also. A good trick I like to use is put your fingers sideways. It spreads it good, and you'll have excess epoxy, so you can just scoop it up and pour it back down. And if you have air bubbles, that's why we have the heat gun, to pop all of those air bubbles. And it's just gonna be an even coat of epoxy. Now we'll be using the heat gun to get that smooth finish of the epoxy, because if you have it very lumpy, the cup's gonna feel lumpy. That's not something we want. And it's also to pop all the little air bubbles we have in there. Make sure it's a heat gun. So we'll be doing up and down motions, so you guys don't want to keep it directly on there because it will separate and expand the epoxy. Not what we want. We want that smooth finish, so we'll be doing up and down motions or side to side motions. So we'll be starting off with our ombre look for this cupcake. We're gonna be using Sugar Mama at the bottom and the Snow White at the top. And sprinkling some Hocus Pocus at the top as well for our sprinkles. So for this one, it has two little sides for like the little, just the specks, or if you want a whole bunch out, we're gonna be using the whole bunch out. And you wanna do tapping motions, so you can get a pretty good generous amount on there. And honestly, it seems like you use a lot of glitter. You really don't. You'll see the bottle at the end that you honestly don't use that much glitter. And you have very satisfying moments with this glitter. Chunky glitter sometimes is hard to work with, especially because it is chunky, so sometimes it can stick out. But honestly, there's no issue with that. You do have to put another layer of epoxy on top anyway, so you can always sand it down if it's too much sticking out. But this is pretty much all the pink I want to use. And there's no perfect way of doing this. Honestly, it's by preference, what you want. And you see, we didn't use that much. It's still all the way to the top. So we'll be using now the Snow White from the Perfect Press at the top. And this is gonna be like our frosting for the cupcake. And this is fine glitter. Fine glitter is easier to work with. I prefer chunky though. And you want to take your time with this because you want to get it cute, you know? So I pretty much have all the white portion covered up. The silver part is a little tricky because we are going to have to do a second layer, but we're going to have to wait till the cup dries to do that second layer. As you guys can see, you can still see the silver part, but that will be on the second portion. And this is also, the sprinkles are gonna go to the second layer as well. That's so cute! I like it! Hey everybody, we're back. Second day after 24 hours of letting the epoxy cure. We're gonna do a second layer to cover up that glitter and then do another layer of glitter since the white was a little light. So we're gonna start mixing. And like said before, you have to wear your gloves so you can protect the skin of the chemicals. And also we will be doing the half and half of the parts to the line so we can get that covered. So we'll be mixing again the B first and then the A. So let's start with B. Up to that first line again. And now moving on to the A, we will be going again also to the first line. We want to do half and half. And now we pour it together. And again, tell Siri to count down 3 minutes. Hey Siri, set a timer for 3 minutes.
Okay, 3 minutes and counting.
And again, you don't want to go fast because you will create too many air bubbles. And while you're mixing, you're gonna get that white little substance. You want it to be clear. Now that we are done with our epoxy mix, we're gonna pour it on top, another thin layer. And again, we want to do the up and down motion. You want to get it covered all the way. You can feel the dry spots, so that's easy to cover up. So after doing the thin layer of epoxy, we're going to use the heat gun to remove all the air bubbles and all the little lumps. So we can do our second layer of glitter. Especially because this white was very light, so we need to cover that silver part. And now that we are done with the heat gun, we are applying more glitter. And again, I like using the little dots for the fine glitter just because you have more control. And we can do the little shake emotion for this one, or shake emotion for this one. Okay, so once we're done with the second layer of epoxy, we're gonna let it dry, and probably in like 3 hours we'll come back and set it again with more epoxy so we can let it dry and be able to put the vinyl on after it dries. So we're back with the vinyl. So as we said, for this cup we're gonna be doing the cupcake, it's the wrong side, the cupcake layout. And since it was chunky glitter that we used, the cup is a bit lumpy, so I'll be showing you guys how to sand it down so we're able to put the coat of epoxy smoothly. So just grab your sanding block and then just sand the little lumps away. I don't know if you guys can see it, the little lumps here. Okay, so we'll start sanding it down. Okay, so as you can see, once you sand it down, it kind of mats it down. It kind of hides the glitter. But once we add the epoxy back on, it'll shine right back up. So it won't look like that. Once it's relatively smooth, we can now apply the vinyl. So we are able to apply our last layer of epoxy. So we'll be adding the cupcake little features. Our theme, how I said, was cupcakes, and it's gonna say sweet. Life is sweet. Honestly, unless your image is super intricate, you're gonna need transfer tape. If not, you can use your hands because either way, the epoxy is going to seal them. I like to use my hands with larger pieces, especially if it's going around the cup because I have more control. So we're gonna be doing it where the transition of the glitter goes. As you can see, this isn't a perfect ombre, so we're gonna be covering that with the glitter. With the glitter UGSV vinyl. So now that we applied the little frosting layer, we're gonna be adding the cupcake film under. And same concept, I'll be using my hands just so I can know exactly where to place it. And since it wraps around, I have more control. And for this vinyl, we are using the metal pink, a little shiny. So now that we are completed with putting the vinyl, the bottom portion on, this is the result. And we'll be putting the epoxy right on top. But before we do that, we'll be putting Life is Sweet, and we will also be sprinkling some sprinkles. For the Life is Sweet words, we will be cutting it out and actually using transfer tape for this one. Since it is a smaller image, we have the more control with the tape. And we are using our gray gritted tape. It has medium tackiness. Life is sweet. And there you have it. And now we'll be epoxying it so we can apply our sprinkles. For the epoxy, we're gonna do the same steps we've always done. Do half and half, half A, half B, and just mix them together for 3 minutes again, and do the layer of it. And this is the last layer of epoxy we'll be doing. Let it dry again for 24 hours and your cup's gonna be done and ready for your coffee. Ooh, ooh. Now we're gonna be using the heat gun to smooth it out and blow out the air bubbles. And now we'll be sprinkling our sprinkles. I will be using my hand just so it won't go everywhere. How cute! Oh, this is so cute. It makes me want to bite it. But I'll probably die from the epoxy poisoning. Life is sweet. Yes, it is. Winston, this is so cute. There you go. And that's our Life is Sweet cup. cupcake inspired cup tumbler. And we're back after 24 hours. The cups have hardened, they're good to go. We're just gonna do a little bit of cleaning up in the inside. We can turn them off now. Well, this did the job for us to remove the tape, but there is some epoxy in the ring inside, so we'll be cleaning that up and also the mouthpiece. You can get your X-Acto knife to do that, and it's very easy to take it off. You're literally just gonna scrape off. It's as simple as that. Boop. Okay, now that we're done with our cup, and it's cleaned up, it's ready to use. You can put the cap in. And our project is completed. Life is sweet. So don't forget to share, subscribe, and like this video, and turn on your post notification so you guys know when we post another video. Thanks for watching. And then can I do that in Spanish too so I can use the same?
That didn't work.
Is your phone good?
My phone's fine.